Right, so... Hi there folks, welcome to 2024. It's January, I've just had my birthday, so I'm just going to pick these hairy bits off of this microphone. Yeah, so here we are, 2024. So I thought for this first vlog of the new year I would go through a few little bits and pieces, so the obvious stuff like games I've designed and bits and pieces like that. And then we'll go through the New Year's resolutions from 2023 to make sure we've hit all of those. And then we're going to start afresh with a brand new set for 2024. So here we go. So for this year I thought I'd change it up a little bit and start with some of the game designs I've been working on. So I'll be perfectly honest, some of my passion for game design has kind of waned a little bit over the Christmas period. I'm not sure what that is, whether it's just the upcoming birthday in January, which is always a depressing month anyway, or just not feeling it, you know, just basically feeling a little bit sort of burnt out or washed out potentially. Not 100% sure, just a bit tired, I suppose. So for this year, I've taken a little bit of a step back and trying to hit some of those easier designs that will be, you know, the quick wins, as it were. And then some of my stretch goals and sort of New Year's resolutions for this year will focus around sort of producing lots rather than focusing in on one or two little things, just because I think like maybe that'll help kickstart some of the imagination, some of the drive, some of the passion that I used to have when I first started doing game design sort of 10 years ago now. Yeah, so fingers crossed. So without much further ado, not a lot to report on the game design front. Dragon Ranch is pretty much still where I left it, tweaking some of the numbers, getting some of this new like card building system with the ranches sorted out, so that when you have like cards that present different polyomino style rearrangements for the ranches, just going to tweak and work around on that, and then hopefully take that to my live playtesting group in February to sort of show them, and because they're more into like the heavier games, so hopefully that'll go down well. The other game we're working on is Ghost Town, so that's now actually starting to take quite a bit of shape. It was deliberately designed to be low number of, you know, sort of easy components like cards and things, and hopefully a low-ish complexity, so it's a little bit of a puzzle to build. I'm working on that at the moment, so hopefully I've cracked it now, because the new system is basically discarding cards to pay for cards, a bit like is it Roll for the Galaxy or Race for the Galaxy? Yes, so a bit like Race for the Galaxy in that sort of style. Hopefully that'll bring us, you know, a nice, interesting set of mechanics for people to play with. Yeah, so not really a lot going on there, but hopefully this year we're going to kickstart that and get my brain going again on that one. On to games played. So I managed to do a bit more playing this month. So Cora Quest, we received. Oh, here it is. Received from Kickstarter. So this was design duo. Oh, where are they? Cora and Dan Hughes. So Cora is Dan's little girl, and they designed it together, and it's an absolutely lovely little representation of like the ideas of an 8-year-old when they're thinking of like Dungeons and Dragons and monsters and gribblies. Really, really cute. The artwork is based on Cora's artwork that has then been rejudged and sort of umphed up by I say a professional artist, I suppose is the best way to describe it. Yeah, really cute. We played the first scenario with the kids. Quite enjoyed it. They've not asked to go back to it, so I don't know whether that's a sign of not wanting to play it a bit more, or whether it's just the fact that we've not had time, and my kids are more understanding of like how long games take these days, so maybe it's a case of they understand that this game takes a little while to play, hence why they've not asked to play it again. But yeah, hopefully going to go through the next scenario on that one. We've played a bit of Grabbit, which is just this crazy little kids game where you roll a dice, it gives you a colour and a symbol, and then there's this pile of like little 3D objects. So like, for example, if you roll like the blue bunny, you have to be the first one to grab the blue bunny. First person to get to like 6 or 10 of these items wins. Nice and simple. We played a Halloween-inspired game called Dreadful Meadows, where you're a... what's the word? You are a person who is trying to produce candy. To produce candy, you need these fields that produce things like spooky marshmallows and sticky little toffees and things like that. And then you use those to pay for like contract cards, essentially, by distributing them around. And then there's these clever little things where you've got to like position your tiles in such a way that you, when you put your little sugar sprites, which are your workers essentially, on them, they'll trigger and set off various different fields around them. But you combine that with these combine harvesters, which are essentially like super sugar sprites that are dotted, will be paid for and dotted around the board as well, and you place them on there, and if it hits these combine harvesters as well, it'll trigger those and cause massive cascades of sweets and things to appear, which is, you know, it's been quite fun, quite charming. Really enjoyed it. The production value was pretty good. I will say there's two things that got on my nerves. Was the fact that two of the things were pretty much the same looking. I think it was the marshmallows and some other item on there. They looked pretty much identical to me, both in colour and shape, so a little bit odd. But the gameplay itself, lovely. Really well produced, and as you know, I'm a sucker for a Halloween theme, so yeah, really enjoyed that one. And what else do we play? Oh, Mystery Agency. So unfortunately I can't remember the name of the actor, but he's one of the chaps that plays in the play that goes wrong. It was a series on the BBC, really funny, where basically they do like a play and things just keep going wrong, but in hilarious ways. So one of the chaps who did it, he's got this really big, deep, booming voice kind of thing. He also designs these mystery agency games, which are basically like an escape room in a box. Really good fun, actually. Lots of padlocks and things like that. Really enjoy it. It's the first one we've ever played, so we're going to try and look to see if we can borrow some more of the other ones. Really good fun. So yeah, that's been great. So that's all the board games. So, moving on to video games. So, it's been a light month for video games. I got really lucky. So, my birthday was in this month, and for my birthday, I got an Asus ROG Ally. So, this is like basically a handheld PC. Basically, as a little treat to myself, because it's one of the big birthdays. I'm going to use that to sort of play on my Steam games, because I noticed that I do most of my gaming in handheld form anyway. I'm not a big proponent of sitting in front of a big screen, because generally the screen is either in use or it's in a room of the house where I can't just sit and play and do things with it. So I've got myself a little handheld. I'm going to use that to play a few more games. So I've gone back and downloaded a couple of the older games, actually, to try and get them off the list. And this will tie back into one of the New Year's resolutions for this year, which I've still got to go and fill in over there in a second, about reconciling and just going with what I've got, saving, playing the stuff that I've already got there to play. So I've gone back and downloaded Resident Evil Revelations 2, which I never finished on the Switch. Really good fun, actually. I was very surprised. I thought I'd gotten out of the horror game mindset, too easily spooked and things, but it's actually quite good fun. I'm still terrible at aiming, but it is what it is. And Hades on the Switch, which I played to absolute death. Pardon the pun there. Excuse me. And then came back to it. Still a really good fun. It's a roguelike where basically you're playing the son of Hades, Zagreus, I think his name is, and you're trying to sort of go through these levels of Hades to try and get out, essentially, and find your mother. But it's all procedurally generated, so each level is different, and then you've got these powers that you're going to pick up from all the other gods of Olympus. So Zeus will give you things that involve lightning, Poseidon will give you things that involve water, what's his name, Hermes will give you stuff involving speed, so you can move around the arenas a bit faster. Really good fun, great stuff, very pick up and play, which is perfect for me, because a lot of the time I don't have a huge amount of time just to sit down and dedicate to a game. As I said, I got the ROG, immediately got it taken off me by the kids, so they could play Plants vs Zombies, because it's got a little touchscreen on it, so they were really enjoying that. But I've also re-downloaded the Final Fantasy VII Remake, which I was really enjoying, but suddenly life got in the way, and I never went back and finished it. So I'm going to go back and have another go at that one, see if I can get that finished off. Yeah, so that's all the video games. Not a huge amount, but, had a bit of fun. So very quickly, books read, not a huge amount. I did some proofreading for Gemma for her latest book, which is called Fae and Familiars. If you're interested in sort of, what do they call it? What does she call it? She calls it Cozy Fantasy. Really good book, actually. Really enjoyed it. Go out and find it. It's on Amazon somewhere. So that's Fae and Familiars by Gemma Clatworthy. I also read a really old book by Terry Brooks. So this is one of his first ones after he finished the Sword of Shannara series, I think it was. It's called Magical Kingdom for Sale. It was really charming. It's this lawyer, basically. He loses his wife and his unborn child, and suddenly all the colour and life drains out of his life, basically. Essentially becomes... he doesn't understand where he's supposed to be going, what he's supposed to be doing. And then this mysterious advert appears in like a magazine for a very sort of prestige shop for basically to become the king of this fantasy land. And he thinks, this is a bit weird, but what have I got to lose? He goes there, he gives them the money, he ends up in this fantasy world, and then stuff ensues and you find out loads of different things about him. Good book, not great. Some of the representations are a bit odd, like there's a sylph who promises herself to him. Gets a bit weird, but yeah, apart from that, good fun, yeah. And then I've just started a mecha series called Clash of Steel. It's a compilation book where there's lots of little stories by lots of indie writers, including my wife. And each story basically has like a mecha involved in it somewhere, and I love myself a good mech, so thumbs up from me, enjoying that one. Yeah, and then I guess I'll just roll straight into some of the weird projects I've been up to. So I got a puzzle from the Dice Tower. So during the last Kickstarter, this has been great. I'm about a third of the way through that. It's very enjoyable. There's a little fuzzy dragon in the bottom corner that drove me absolutely nuts, but got there in the end. So yeah, I finished that one up. And the other project is a Game Boy adapter. So this was a bit of a weird one. So I've been on a sort of a preservation kick for a lot of my retro games, so what would be considered retro now. So things like Game Boy, Game Boy Advance, some of the DS, 3DS stuff. Older games, which essentially the markets for them, the online markets, are disappearing from a lot of the Nintendo stores and things like that, and then either being repackaged into the Switch's online service or just disappearing completely. You know, Nintendo is very litigious on that side, so if you make an emulator, you're going to get in a lot of trouble. So rather than go down those sort of routes of, you know, ROM hacking and downloading illegally stuff, which I do not condone, I'm going to go back and try and download the ROMs from my owned discs and just go from there. But yeah, and essentially I'm looking to preserve as much of my gaming media as possible, so I can still play those games later on when either the cartridge or the hardware used to play them dies. So yeah, got myself a little Game Boy adapter that will allow me to download those things. It also downloads the saves from the little cartridges as well, so I'll be able to go back and play those saves or delete them or hold on to them and put them somewhere else, so I can have multiple saves rather than just the 1 or 3 that you usually get on these sort of Game Boy things. So yeah, working on that. So there'll be more about that in the sort of months to come as I sort of tweak and play around with these new consoles, or these old consoles in fact, which would be new to me, but you know, are older ones that may not be around for much longer. So yeah, we'll see how that goes. Okay, so let's go on to the last little bit. So hopefully I can pop a little picture or something here that will appear, or some lines, or I don't know, some text. Basically, I just want to go through the resolutions from last year. So we've been super successful. So my 3 resolutions for last year were pitch 3 games to 3 publishers, which I did at the UK Games Expo, so I hit that one in one hit, so that's fantastic. Not had a huge amount of feedback from that, but I'm going to chase up one of the publishers that did show a bit of interest in Dragon Ranch, show them some of the changes that I've been making. So yeah, hopefully that will go down well. Learned a new skill, so I did that right at the end of 2023, which was to learn how to do soldering. So my lovely wife taught me how to do soldering. I had a little play around, I put some LED strips together. Absolutely fantastic. So for the rest of the year, I'm going to be practicing that skill. I've even got a little solder sucker and things like that, so I can start removing chips and putting chips back on, and then maybe getting some like kits or something to sort of practice my skills. Just see where it goes. Basically, I'm not too stressed about, you know, becoming the world's best solderer, but it'd be nice to have that sort of extra skill under my belt. Something interesting to do in the cold winter nights. Yeah, we'll see how we go. And then complete a project on the cricket, which I did, which were those lovely stickers, which I haven't got any available right now. No, all gone. But yeah, some lovely stickers that I did for the kids as well. So for their party, we were able to pick the exact things they wanted. So like Optimus Prime, you know, my kids are really into sort of the big robots and Transformers, or ghosts and unicorns, or whatever they want. I can just create a sticker set for them, bish bash bosh, cut it all out, give it to them and the mates. Fantastic. And then, funnily enough, I had 2 little stretch goals. One of them was to create a retro gaming console, which I never got to because I couldn't finish the soldering skill one in time. So I switched that about halfway through the year for a retro gaming centre, which I've built over there, which has got some lovely old consoles ranging from the NES and SNES classics all the way up to, I think it's a Wii U is probably the newest one over there. Yeah, so which is great, so I've gone back and played some of my old games. We're playing a lot of the drums and the dancing games, but also some of the older Marios, and just having a quick look over there. Yeah, PS2 stuff as well, which has been absolutely great. There's one I'm really hankering to play called The Suffering. I don't know if any of you folks have played it, but it was a really spooky action-style game from way back when, and it was one of my favourite games ever. It's over there. I'm going to play it soon. It's going to be great. And the last one was to do a vlog every month of the year last year, which I did achieve. The December one was probably the hardest because it was sort of squeezing in around all the Christmas stuff and cool stuff we were doing there. But yeah, we got there in the end, and hoping to continue that for this year. So for 2024, fingers crossed, more vlogging. So, right, that's 2023, absolute success. Can we repeat that for 2024? So we're going to head over now to the whiteboard, and I'm going to show you what we've got planned for 2024. Hello, right, here we are. Okay, so we're going to do this super quick because these lights are really, really bright, and you can probably see little tiny squares just a sort of appearing here and here. That's just where my lights are, and I'm not the best lighting technician. So anyway, without further ado, New Year's resolutions for 2024. Yeah. So, number 1, create 10 separate pages for games in progress. So basically this is coming from the fact that, am I in the picture? I really hope so. This is basically coming from the fact where I feel like I've lost a little bit of my mojo over the last year. And rather than go down the route of trying to focus in on 2 or 3 designs like I was doing, I'm going to try and sort of broaden the horizon, get a few designs, 10 designs basically, into a space where they're either pitchable or at least more than just a concept. They're, you know, they're ideas and they've been play tested a little bit at some sort of degree. Yeah, and then off the back of that, create 10 web pages. So I've got to take pictures and write little descriptions. Not a huge amount of work, but it'll be something that will hopefully push me forward. Right, second one, complete a project using the new soldering skills. So the soldering skills I learned at the end of last year, I'd like to put them to some sort of use. I could cop out and do like one of these little soldering kits that you can buy, where basically it creates an LCD kind of thing. Maybe I'll give that away as a present. But 3 other ideas I had was possibly look down the Raspberry Pi route. There's some interesting things apparently you can do with a Raspberry Pi if you know how to solder, including cool little light shows. So that might be fun. Oh, there's the light display one. And then the last one here is restore a Game Boy. So going back to my sort of retro gaming kick at the moment, there are some things you can do with Game Boys or Game Boy Advances where you can use soldering to sort of put in some LEDs and things like that. So maybe I'll look into doing a couple of those. I've got a couple of junk Game Boy Advances turning up which work but are in sort of, you know, dire straits basically. They need a screen replacement or something like that. So I might see if I can find a guide on how to solder in some LEDs or a new battery or something like that. And yeah, maybe make that my new soldering project. But anyway, I've got all the other kit to sort of practice a bit of soldering with to start with, and then I'll come back to that one a bit later. And then this last one, hold on, I'm going to have to fast forward through this bit. Right, so just adding in some numbers. Right, so for the last one, this is basically a case of me thinking that maybe I've reached a point where I don't need any more stuff. Like, essentially, basically, I've got a lot of board games. I've got a lot of video games. I've got a lot of Kickstarters that are on the way, or if not on the way, I've already received. So this year, what I'd like to do is consolidate, essentially. Go back and look at what I've already got and understand that, you know, this cult of the new maybe isn't healthy. Maybe it's not a case of I always need to be following the latest thing or getting the next thing, because I don't know if you remember as a kid, when you got like a new game or a new board game or something like that, you played it to death. Like, that was the only thing you were going to get for like a few months. So you played it a lot. I mean, I remember getting video games that, you know, they weren't particularly great games in hindsight, but I did play them, and I went back and played them again, and then I'd go back and do all like the little secret extra missions or all the little pickups. Whereas now I just don't. I mean, I don't know if you can see it quite here in the camera, but here is like a list of the games that I've collected over the years. I've maybe completed 50% of them, because there's always something new, there's always something shiny, there's always something interesting that comes out all of a sudden, and I just don't play it. Same with the board games. I might play them once and then never play them again. I might just go, oh yeah, that was nice, completely forget the rules within 6 months and never play them again. My Shelf of Shame isn't actually that bad in terms of like the number of games there. I think it would be quite easy to bang that out in a few months. But again, I don't want to be under the sort of stress and pressure of constantly feeling like I have to keep up with the new stuff. So I've created this third goal to essentially reduce my spending, consolidate, enjoy the things I've got, don't feel I need to buy more stuff. How it's going to work is, I've set this as like a tiered system. There's a gold, there's a silver, and there's a bronze. I achieve these at the end of the year if I have bought equal to or less than this number. So if I buy 8 board games or less during the year, I achieve gold standard in this one. Kickstarter is 6 and the video games is 10, and then the silver I got slightly more, and then the bronze more again. Ideally this is what I'm aiming for, and the concept is going to be that, you know, if I dip down into silver for board games, I'm silver overall. I have to get gold in all 3 of those things for me to achieve a gold standard in reducing my spending, which would make me feel incredibly happy. And then obviously silver and bronze. I'm not counting gifts. I'm not counting games that are already in Kickstarter right now and I receive later. They don't count. And I'm not counting, so for the video game side as well, I'm not going to count bundles. So what can often happen is you'll find a really good deal and you'll get a bundle of games with it, which may include games that I've already owned or something like that, which I will then immediately sell, or if I don't sell them, I'll give them away to other people. So I'm not counting video game bundles. What I'm counting is new games that I go out and buy specifically on their own. So there's a new one called Pal World, which I'm really intrigued by, which is really cheap actually, and apparently presents a lot of gameplay. So I might go back and do that. But again, like I said, I've got lots here to go through already. Yeah, that's the last one. And then right down here, I don't know if you can quite see it, a couple of little stretch goals. One thing I'd like to do is potentially write a short story. So I've been inspired by my wife to go back to a small short story I wrote about an IP that I invented for a game called Mech Elemental, where essentially you've got mechs and magic kind of melded together into this weird kind of thing. Go see if maybe I can write a short story on that. I don't know how long a short story count says, but I'll go back and find out. And then the last one is translate a manga. So what I'd like to do is get back into sort of language learning. I've got a whole year to go back and maybe try and learn a bit of Japanese, like I was doing many years ago when we moved to Japan. Went on holiday to Japan, which was a great time. I remember at the time buying a couple of the manga while we were over there with the deliberate intent of like penciling in what the words and everything mean, because the mangas that I bought, they have hiragana, which is like the simplest alphabet they've got, and it's very phonetic and it's quite easy to read and sort out. And they've even got I can't remember what it's called. I think it's called Futagari. I can't remember the exact word, but basically where they have the hiragana then of underneath each of the kanji as well, which is the kanji are like the most complex letter pictographs of the Japanese alphabet, and they represent whole words. So underneath each of them, if it's a complicated word, they'll also have the hiragana underneath, which makes it a bit simpler for me to translate as well. So yeah, the idea was to become more fluent in, say, the hiragana alphabet, and then move on to katakana, then move on to the kanji. Maybe I'll go back. So one of my stretch goals is to take one of those manga books and translate the whole book, essentially. Just pencil it out. I don't need to understand it necessarily, but I will be, once I learn the alphabet and be able to sort of instantly recognise the hiragana and have it burned into the memory after a year. Yeah, so that's the plan. So that's 2024. Hopefully it's going to be a lovely year for you and me. I'm going into it cautiously optimistic, not as optimistic as I was last year. But just that feeling of needing to maybe slow down and consider what I've already got. Remembering, obviously the family and everything, that's all going to stay there, and just appreciate them a bit more, and just do less. Just demonstrate that it's possible to stop and just enjoy what you have for a moment. It's getting a bit deep. So yeah, that's basically where I'm going with that. Right, so have a good 2024. I'd love to know your New Year's resolutions, if you've got any as well, if you've got this far in the video, because it's going to be a long one, and to be perfectly frank, I'm probably the only one that's going to be watching it in 5 years' time. But I'll enjoy that. Anyway, cheers folks, and I'll see you soon. Bye!